having a great day today. We appreciate you spending part of it with us here on America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates with Nolan Baker and Scott Kirshner, and myself. My name is Chris Swan. 419-794-3030. That's the phone number. 419-794-3030. Always online, day and night, americasretirementheadquarters.com. On today's show, why your retirement doesn't mean it's the end of the line. And if you're debating whether or not right now is the time to retire, we'll tell you about a possibly different strategy. But before we get into any of that, got to check in with the guys. Nolan, Scott, glad to be with you as always. How are we doing today?
We're doing great, Chris. It's good to be here. Had another great weekend last weekend, so looking forward to another fun weekend this weekend. Last weekend had an opportunity to get out, take the boat, do a little boating with some friends down on the Maumee. So weather was just continued to be gorgeous. They talk about fall's right around the corner. I see seeing stuff about football coming out. I know my kid's getting ready for hockey season to start up there at Anthony Wayne, and I just need things to slow down a little bit.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Well, I wish I was out on the boat with you, because I actually was over in Kent, moving my daughter out of the house that she was renting. And she had to be out by the end of July, so I've got a trailer backed in my garage that's still loaded with all of her belongings, and I'm headed down this weekend to move her into a new apartment in the Cleveland area. So I'd rather been on the boat with you, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was a little bit more enjoyable, I'd say. But my oldest is getting ready to move back to college too, so I was starting to get ready for that, picking dates for move-in, and he'll be back down at BGSU before too long, which is it's always a good season. So every season's a good season, so it's good.
Yes.
I would disagree slightly in the sense that I don't think moving season's that great personally, and it always seemed cruel. I remember in college, it's been a while since I've had to do it, of course, but having to move during the hottest part of the year, move in and out, carry the couches and things like that. Yes. But more power to you. I've still got a ways away from that before my 6-year-old is going to be moving anywhere. But we appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy schedule as well to spend with the listeners. So let's go ahead and dive right in here. Interest rates went up another 0.75 of a point last week, and the Fed shows no signs of stopping. They're saying they're actually not afraid to make a larger move in the near future, possibly even a full point. Jim Caron with Morgan Stanley tells CNBC there are clear risks ahead.
The Fed have to be tough on inflation. The problem is that they're fighting a lagging indicator, inflation, with a policy tool, raising interest rates, that works with a lag. So it's very, very difficult for them to actually time this and get this right. The risk is a recession. The risk is a hard landing. They are willing to go into that territory in order to stop inflation.
Now, on a personal level, we can try to combat inflation by spending less to an extent. I mean, there are still essentials we're all going to have to pay, and we can still feel the effects of inflation through that. So what are you guys telling clients to reassure them at this point when the fear of outliving money remains a constant, if not magnified?
Well, I think the fear of outliving money has been one of the biggest concerns for people, whether inflation is high or not. It's been a big concern for quite some time, and I think there are some things to do. The million-dollar question about the Federal Reserve and rising interest rates is going to be how does that impact investors and retirees? There's always, good and bad things that come out, and, some of the good things that are out there. If you look at some of the traditional savings accounts that are out there, things like CDs or the fixed annuities or some traditional fixed accounts, rates are still really starting to go back up. They're starting to become more attractive. Again, if you haven't been listening to the show lately and haven't heard, government I-bond rates are over 9% right now. So if you haven't taken advantage of that, that's how you can help, put some of these things in your favor. The I stands for inflation bonds. These are bonds issued by the United States government. You can get those directly from the United States Treasury at Treasury Direct. But when we're looking at the issue of people being concerned about outliving their money, one of the things that you can do is I think there's ways that you can cut expenses but still enjoy life.
Sure.
I know, like recently, business-wise, I went through and I kind of looked at a lot of the business expenses I have. Which ones are we needing? Are we actually using? And you can find things inside of there. I know, Scott, we've done this multiple different times when we get together with clients. We're looking at the expenses, and healthcare-related expenses are typically one of the biggest, expenses a retiree has.
Absolutely.
There's been some really good examples I can think of when we've helped people save money. I know one in particular that we had a client that was getting ready to retire. He came in a couple of months before the end of the year, and then he had a couple of years until he was going to become Medicare eligible. So So in order to do that, if we looked at him pulling money out of his 401k or traditional retirement account, that income would have been fully countable
Right.
for him going on the Affordable Health Care Act. So his expense was going to be drastically higher.
Absolutely.
What we were able to do is we were able to take some of that money and actually pull it out of his retirement account, convert it over into another like Roth IRA, or somebody could use an after-tax account. And because he pulled it out in the previous year, and the next year when he retired, then when he applied, he could demonstrate the fact that he had less income.
Right.
And I think in his example, it cut his healthcare cost by $500 a month when
That's
we
correct.
looked at that scenario.
Yeah, a Roth IRA is not reportable income when you're looking at the marketplace for health insurance. And like you said, anybody that's under the age of 65 and you retire prior to 65, then you have to actually look at health care outside of Medicare. And the way to do that is the marketplace. And we've worked a long time together. I think, over the past 15 to 18 years, we've worked together and helped clients out by changing their reportable income. One of the other things is when you turn 65, you go on Medicare, and if you don't choose the proper plan on Medicare, it can cost you thousands of dollars. I've been able to really help. I've got a client up in Lansing, Michigan, and I've been really able to help them. They were paying roughly $7,000 a year in premiums. Now, keep in mind, this is a premium they're going to pay whether they go to the doctor or use their health care or not. They're still paying this premium. They were healthy. So I showed them some options with an Advantage plan, with a zero premium plan, and I was able to save them that $7,000. I actually recently touched base with them to see how things were going, and they're loving it. They were able to still continue to go on their trips down to Florida. They go down there for a couple of months out of the year. They're in good health. They haven't really used any of their out-of-pocket expenses, so they've saved a great deal of money. And the other thing that brings along with it is some added benefits that they didn't have on their supplemental plans, like dental, vision, and hearing coverage that is not covered by Medicare, and quite frankly, you would have to pay a premium for that. I think the big move has been to go to the Advantage plans. Over the past probably year and a half, I've noticed, in 28 years of doing this, I've noticed the trend heading towards the Advantage plans. Some people out there think they're a horrible plan. Some people out there think they're great plans. It's an individual circumstance for each individual person. Mm-hmm. I have a few bullet points here that I like to attribute some of these trends to the Advantage plan, basically because why are people doing this? And I think the reason why they're doing this is the plans that people are coming off of their employer plan, the Advantage plan is most similar to that. I had a client that tell me one time here over the past 6 months or so ago, and they said, we've worked 40, 45 years. We've had health insurance that we've paid a premium for. We've had an out-of-pocket expense. Why all of a sudden when we turn 65 do we expect everything to be covered in full with nothing out of our pocket? And that really resonated with me, and I kind of use that with other clients. So one of the reasons why I think the Advantage plans are becoming more popular is because people are working past 65, and when they do retire, that health plan from their employer is most similar to what they currently have. The Part B premiums, every year the Part B premium goes up. For example, it was $144.60 last year. This current 2022 year is $170.10. That's almost an 18% increase in the Part B premium. And along with that is some of the out-of-pocket expenses that Medicare carries. And inflation. I mean, hey, the elephant in the room. Inflation is huge, and the seniors are really impacted by this. The gas prices, your daily essentials have really put a strain on everybody. So these are some of the reasons why I think that more people are going with the zero premium Advantage plans today than ever before. It just makes sense, actually.
It can in a lot of situations. And the other thing, when on our show we talk about opportunities to take advantage of, there's a good example of, those of you that are paying out-of-pocket health insurance cost or Medicare, maybe time to set up a review and look for health savings there. But we also talk about blind spots, not getting caught by a blind spot. I know one of the things we were talking about just a moment ago is, somebody from an income standpoint. So, with your premiums that you pay either for affordable care or what you pay for your Medicare premium, it's based upon income.
That's correct.
And, a good example of somebody getting caught off guard, they may want to decide to pay off their house early, or right at retirement time. But if they're on Medicare and they take all that money out, or if they're, using the Affordable Care Act, that income they pull out of their retirement account is going to go against them, and they be, shocked when they find out that their premium costs double. And it's not until oftentimes after the fact that they find out that that cost goes up a lot. So number 2 is look for eliminating unused subscriptions. It seems like our society, we've gone to a subscription-based model. I love Buckeye Telesystem. That's what I have. And the reason I predominantly love it is because my son plays Anthony Wayne High School. They have the BCS channel. And there's nothing better than watching your kid on TV on BCSN. But in addition to that, if you think about it, I like to watch the show Yellowstone.
Sure.
So you've got to buy a subscription for that. There's my Disney Plus for the kids. You've got a subscription for that. And I think about it, I'm like, well, Yellowstone's not even on for several more months now. Like, why are we paying for this?
Right.
I stopped and looked at it. You've got the HBO Max. You've got all of these different things. So, there's apps that are out there that help you look at what some of your subscriptions are. And I bet there's probably some subscriptions that you're paying for that maybe you had little to no idea about.
There's no question. I'm in the same boat. When Sabrina, my daughter, was at Kent State as a freshman, there was a lot of games that I didn't travel to because, as a freshman, I didn't know how much she was going to play. So I was able to sign up for some of these subscribed accounts that would broadcast. And, well, she graduated in May, right? And I can almost guarantee you that I probably am paying for some of these subscriptions that are no longer something that I need. And if you don't pay attention when you're checking and looking at something online, a lot of times they'll have free trial for 3 months. Well, how many people out there remember after the 3 months to go out and cancel it if they didn't want that? And you'll have a monthly hit on your credit card, so like you said, that's a very, very good way to eliminate some of the expenses too.
Yeah, third thing and final thing on dealing with inflation right now and ways that you, our listeners, can take control in your own individual situation is number 3 is look to increase your yield. By yield, I mean the predictable income that's generated from your investment accounts. One of the things that you can do is some stocks pay dividends and some stocks don't. Like in our portfolio, one of them that we have called blue chip income, that's one of the things that we look for is we look for, dividend paying stocks. We look for stocks that we like, and we use some strategies that are designed to generate more current income. So by shifting maybe what you own in your portfolio, there's ways that you can get a higher income. The other area that I'd say is to put lazy money to work.
Oh, yes.
So if you have lazy assets, money sitting around the bank, not really doing a whole lot, still stuck in these traditional fixed accounts. Again, just like I mentioned, the government I-bonds backed by the full faith and pledge of the United States government, they're currently paying over 9%. Very easy to set up. We did a YouTube video on how to set this up. So if you go over to YouTube, just type in America's Retirement Headquarters. And under our video section, there's a link there that shows you how to set up a Treasury Direct account. Of course, you can call our office. And even in the insurance space, a lot of the traditional fixed annuity rates have gone up quite a bit. So things to review and revisit with some of your lazy assets that you have.
So again, it's all about seeking opportunity in times of normal, what people would think of as financial adversity, interest rates going up, inflation being what it is, getting that under control, controlling your own personal inflation and how that's affecting you, reducing your expenditures out there. You guys talking about eliminating subscriptions. You reminded me, I think I mentioned this on the air, I lost my wallet back in May of this year, and it was a pain. I had to replace everything. But it did remind me because I would get these email notifications. They're like, hey, your card didn't go through for this subscription or that subscription that I had forgotten about. And I was like, oh, Yeah, I haven't used that in forever. So I just canceled it outright. Now, I don't advise losing your wallet as a way to get that under wraps. There are better ways to go about it. And if you need help with that, the team at America's Retirement Headquarters, they can help you. 419-794-3030 is the number, or you can go online to americasretirementheadquarters.com. But what is the top reason that people actually seek financial help? There was a new poll that said it's actually understanding how much they can safely spend in retirement without going broke. And for years, something called the 4% rule, it worked great. It said that if you withdrew 4% of your financial assets each year, you could adequately fund your retirement, adjusted periodically for inflation. But a lot of people think that this rule is seriously flawed and even outdated. Where do you guys stand on this rule, and how do you approach it as retirees worry if they're going to have enough money to go the distance?
Yeah, the 4% rule has been a hot topic for a while. So I think one of the takeaways for our listeners is if you're in retirement time and you're withdrawing money from your investment accounts, take a moment to figure out what your personal withdrawal rate is. So all you got to do is you got to take your total investment assets divided by what the annualized withdrawal rate is, and that'll give you your percentage withdrawal. If you look at the 4% rule, the whole thesis behind that safe 4% rule was based upon a backward-looking data. So, assumptions that worked in the past may not work necessarily in the future. I also say, history doesn't repeat itself, but it oftentimes rhymes. One of the things that's quite a bit different today is most traditional fixed rates are much lower than where they were in the past. So when you think about this, traditional 60-40 mix, you may have part of the portfolio that's not working as hard. The other thing is, as I say, the rule doesn't take into account a lot of unexpected expenses that come up. Things like healthcare emergencies, or I've gotten the phone call that I need to bail my kids or grandkids out. Somebody's going to lose the house, or they're going to go through a divorce. Or even things like the bucket list trips. I've got some clients that I just talked to, and they're taking a good withdrawal out to take their kids and grandkids on a bucket list trip, which is perfectly fine. But, again, if you've built your thesis on this 4% rule, make sure you have these other buckets of money that are designed for things like the healthcare emergencies, like unexpected emergencies, and like the fun stuff. You need to do that.
Absolutely.
That's what it's there for. That's really kind of the whole trademark system that we've put together with the independent income system. So within the independent income system, what we've tried to do is try to compartmentalize money and look at different buckets of money that are designed to do different things and be able to kind of accomplish those goals. I can think of, several examples that have come up in the past where, people have had like healthcare expenses or healthcare things that have gone on that, created a lot of different medical expenses that quickly wipe them out.
Yeah, if you have someone that doesn't have the proper plan in place, we've shared on previous shows, Nolan, you and I both have had a client that chose to self-insure for a couple of years prior to turning 65 for Medicare. And that did not work out very well for them because they actually had some health issues that really blew up their plans. I've referred to this many times, just to give you an example. My mother has incurred $178,000 in medical bills this year alone, right? Because she has a good insurance plan, must have had a good agent. He'll hook her up with that, right? But because she has a good insurance plan, she has an out-of-pocket expense of $3,700. Okay, had she not had that plan, she could be looking in excess of $35,000 in out-of-pocket expenses based on original Medicare. So I see this all the time, especially people with under 65 years old, if they don't have the proper plans put in place. I mean, there's, it's hard to tell what's going to happen in 2023, but you've got an $8,700 deductible plus a premium. You could be looking at $25,000 of out-of-pocket expenses for an unforeseen health issue. So, it's important, One of the things that I do here is I go through and I love to give real-life examples. Anybody that's met with me knows that I use my family as real-life examples because I can show you exactly where and how a claim can be covered or how you could be devastated by not having the proper coverage.
It is. It's those little things that kind of wipe you out. And again, the same story of a client years ago that we ran into. He retired before 65 and again decided to self-insure to figured he'd be fine until he makes it to 65. Unfortunately, he came down with cancer and did everything he could to, battle fighting cancer. And ultimately, the cancer, which sucks, took his life.
Sure.
But his wife was left with all those bills.
Right.
And the hospital sued her.
Yeah.
So these are type of things that, we want to help prevent for you. We talk a lot about the threats and opportunities that are facing retirees. In fact, again, we have a new video that we just published on this topic. If you take a moment, go over to our website, americasretirementheadquarters.com. Right on the homepage, you can see the threats and opportunities for retirees. Click on the button on the independent income system. We'll kind of walk you through, where we see some of the threats and opportunities out there today, how to be able to get yourself positioned with our independent income system, and, how it can apply to your situation. So again, if you're listening and you're like, I don't know, this year's been a little bit tricky. Not only have we had somewhat of a down market, we also have, this inflation, and I'm trying to figure out how to best maximize every dollar that I have, and am I taking the right withdrawal rate? Again, the independent income system and our methodology, I think, is something that you should explore. You could just, again, Google independent income system, and we've got another video that talks for another 15 minutes on how to take advantage of that in today's marketplace.
Nolan, I want to add one thing to that real quick. One of the things that we've talked about many times, and you've always talked about having that backup buckets of money out there, and one of the really nice things to do is if you have the ability to contribute to a health savings account, an HSA account, those funds are yours. You don't forfeit them when you leave an employer or turn 65. I've got clients that have $40,000, $50,000 sitting in an HSA account that they can use in their Medicare ages to pay for all of these out-of-pocket expenses. So that's another area that is something that you prepare for today before you get to the 65 tomorrow.
As the saying goes, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And, something I found interesting about the 4% rule is it was implemented back in 1994 by a guy named Bill or William Benjamin. And, every time we talk about inflation these days, we talk about, it's an all-new record 40-year high. When this 4% rule was implemented, we didn't have the inflation we have now. So it's difficult to say that it's still a valid withdrawal strategy. At the end of the day, it's better than nothing. But I think everybody out there wants something that's a little bit more than quote-unquote better than nothing when it comes to their retirement plan. They want the one that's customized just for them, and that is something that the team at America's Retirement Headquarters can help you with. If you want to learn more about the independent income system, again, just do a quick Google search. It's the first thing that pops up there. Or you can go online to americasretirementheadquarters.com. That educational video that Nolan was talking about is right there for you as well. You can give a call as well, 419-794-3030, or the website, like I said, americasretirementheadquarters.com. Now, we talked a little bit about Medicare last week, Scott, and a new report says that more than half of the people on Medicare, they actually don't bother to review their plan options each year as the annual election period goes through, and they just stick with what they got because it's too much of a hassle to switch. What are the reasons that somebody might consider actually changing plans, and how difficult is it actually for you to help them with that process?
Well, Chris, that's a staggering number, and I see it all the time. Some of the reasons why you want to switch or you at least need to review your plan is because Medicare changes every year. Mm-hmm. It changes every year. And if you have, like here locally, we have McLaren St. Luke's Hospital, and over the past couple of years, ProMedica dropped them from the network. Well, if you're not staying on top of this and your hospital or doctor has retired or no longer in the network, and you just renew your plan for the following year, you go to that doctor, guess what? That's out-of-pocket expenses to you. It's not covered in your plan, depending on what plan you have. So that's one big reason. The other reason why is because of prescription. Prescriptions change every year. They're changing in 2023. I've already had a couple of first looks. Not really able to divulge any of that information just yet, but there are changes coming for 2023. One of the things that has really changed for us advisors is there are new rules put in place. And I will tell you this, we've talked about, we laugh about the Three Joes and the Jimmy Walker and those pesky commercials, but as a result of that, there are new rules put in place for me as an advisor on some of the things that I have to do when I meet with a client. It's very frustrating for advisors like myself that have someone call up and buy a plan from Joe Namath. Well, guess what happens after they buy that plan? You think they're getting an annual renewal letter to review what's happening next year? You think there's anybody reaching out to them and going to help them and see if their network is still up to speed with what they need? So it's very, very important. That's why I do what I do. I want to help people. I want to make sure that everybody understands what Medicare is and how it changes. I do a lot of educational events that'll be coming up here in the next month, and we go through the changes and what to expect moving into 2023. And you're not doing yourself any favors if you don't at least reach out to your current advisor, or if they don't reach out to you, then
maybe get a second opinion.
Get a second opinion.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And that's what we do, you know. There's no obligation to ever buy anything, but I just want to make sure that you understand exactly what you have.
Yeah, I know I had a meeting earlier this week with some clients, and she was letting me know that she got notice that her prescription drug is not going to be covered next year.
Yep, absolutely.
And it was $6,000 a month is what her medication was going to run. So obviously, you know, she got prompted, you know, maybe go out and take a look at things that are out there. But when you look at the numbers, according to the Financial Advisor article, 58% don't bother to review their plan options. You know, only 20% of respondents have a good understanding between the difference of original Medicare. 31% have a good understanding of Medicare Advantage. There's a lot of confusion that's out there.
Yep.
And as you point out, some of the commercials on TV don't always help with that conversion. I think one of the things that I'm liking about, you know, what America's Medicare Associates does is not only are we independent, where we represent, you know, a lot of different companies, is we're local. We're right here in town.
Yep.
You know, so you have an opportunity to come and sit down, you know, face to face. I know we have a meeting later coming up where somebody's driving in from Oak Harbor, and she had, you know, gotten into one of those 800 numbers and, you know, was not able to navigate her way through that, and just says, look, I need somebody that can look at it in my unique situation, and it's not one solution for everybody. I need somebody that can help me kind of look at what I need to do. So we can absolutely do that. Happy to do that for all the folks when we're reviewing your healthcare costs.
It's kind of like their financial plan, you know, out of sight, out of mind. If everything is going well, they just don't, they put it on the back burner and don't look at it. That's not what you need to do with your financial plan, and it's not what you need to do with your Medicare. You know, that's what we're here for.
I am shocked to learn that Joe Namath isn't calling every single one of those customers every year and telling them what their new options are. You know, the annual election period doesn't begin for another 2 months, August 15th through December 7th, but you could very well, and you probably are already getting pamphlets and things in the mail, literature in the mail telling you about what the changes mean. Don't throw those away. You know, you don't have to go necessarily sift through every single one of them, but you do want to be aware of it. You know, you can go ahead and bring those to the table when you set up a meeting with the team at America's Medicare Associates, when you meet with Scott. And then, you know, look at the pros and cons, the ins and outs, and figure out what's going to be best for you going forward. It may not necessarily be the plan that you're on right now, and it may not necessarily be the plan that your spouse is going to be on in the coming year. Different strokes for different folks, I guess, as the saying goes. But something to be aware of. Please don't neglect this. It could be a very costly mistake or a lack of action on your part. Give a call. Go ahead and schedule a time to get ready for the annual election period. 419-794-3030 is the number. It's 419-794-3030. Enjoying your second life in retirement. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about how America's Retirement Headquarters can help make that happen, along with Kevin Caesar in this week's Committed to the 419 segment as he discusses the upcoming Toledo Jeep Fest.